Hello once again and welcome to our flagship show on Enterprise TV known as Homo Politicus. And today we look at another of those issues thrown up by the Nigerian Federation. Today, federal government names 15 terrorist financiers, bureau de change, and plans actions, or sanctions, I should say. Now, former French President Jacques Chirac has described terrorism as a systematic weapon of war that knows no borders and seldom has a face. So terrorism, therefore, happened on us in 2009, and for 15 years, we've been running around in circles, wondering what to do about terrorism, and for the matter, we are torn between the risk of a wrong decision and the terror of indecision. Sometime in September 2021, the United Arab Emirates listed 6 Nigerians amongst 38 global sponsors of terrorism. The federal government has uncovered the identity of 15 entities, including 9 individuals plus 6 bureau de change operators and firms allegedly involved in terrorism financing. The revelation was made by the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU. This is for March 2024. Now, the Attorney General of the Federation has the approval of Mr. President to list them. We have the names, but we must act now or risk the long range of comfortable inaction. Let's have a discussion. My 2 discussants are, I dare say, familiar to you. Let's meet and greet journalist, public affairs analyst, Dr. Olabisi Deji Folutile. I greet you, madam. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have Barrister Evans Ufeli, attorney at law,
Yes,
and a political commentator. Barrister Evans, I greet you.
it's my pleasure.
Yeah, gentlemen, terrorism financiers had been known to us. The names had been known, but were we so sure? Until yesterday, if you understand what I mean. So 15 names have been released, 9 of them living human beings, financing terrorism in our environment. How do you react to that, Bisi?
Well, let me first of all ask, did we really have 9 names? I think 1 person was named. 8 others were described.
No, but we have the names.
We don't know
Although the debate is, do we know them?
We don't know them. We know them by description from what NFIU released. But be that as it may, at least we have identified some people, and even if the identities of these people are not known to us as the public, they are known to the authorities. Because from the way they described them, I could see that a woman was also amongst them. So yes, we can say that we know them now. And
sorry, are you shocked that bureau de change operators are involved?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Because even before now, there have been insinuations to that effect. Remember that even the US or which country gave us the hint that some Nigerians UAE, that were financing terrorism and all of that. And I also think the last government did mention that some bureau de change were involved in. They even mentioned some individuals and whatever, but we just couldn't trust them because we also know that
trust the names or
we
the
couldn't trust the information.
Okay.
Because we also know then that during the NSAS movement, some people were also mentioned to have been involved in terrorism, and which weren't actually the case. So I think it's a good development that government is coming out.
So we are getting someplace.
Yes, yes, I think it's a good way to start, that at least we have some names, we have some individuals, we have some agencies identified with proofs according to them. And what is next now is not for the government to allege, it's for them to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these things that they have mentioned, that they are really true. And if that is the case, what we are expecting now is the prosecution
Yeah.
of these individuals and
Because
agencies.
the law allows you to.
Yeah, exactly.
To go the whole hog.
To go the whole hog. So we thank them for giving us the list.
Yeah.
But we want them to go further from that.
Barrister Evans Ofeli, let's exploit the legal angle to it all. Controversial Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi insists the federal government has no right to declare anybody a terrorist, or for that matter, a terrorism financier. Only the court can.
It's wrong. It's wrong because if you look at Section 15 of the Terrorism Prevention Act, Nigeria, it states that whoever is involved in the actual act, whoever conspires with whoever is involved, whoever finances the act, directly or indirectly, they are all, what he should say is that some persons are primary offenders and some persons are secondary offenders, allegedly. So he can only say that, because the truth is that when the police arrest people, they arrest them on the basis of reasonable suspicion. And reasonable suspicion under the law is that you have done investigation and the arrow keep pointing to this people. Why didn't they mention me or you or her? So the federal government have a right to say,
we were not
by
perhaps
investigation.
available.
Well, the federal government have the right to say, this person, there is, from evidence we feel that you are part of them. So what will now happen is for the federal government to then undertake prosecution, wherein those persons involved will disprove, because the onus or the burden of proof will be on the federal government, on the prosecution, to now, convince the court with evidence that these persons are financiers of the act.
Yeah.
Then the onus shifts to them to disprove. And that is how to keep moving on to get to
But again,
the point of truth.
As a human being, my reaction is this. Could Gumi be saying this because the man so mentioned, one of the men so mentioned, Malam Tukor Mamu, Malam Tukor Mamu, a publisher based in Kaduna, is a personal friend of Gumi?
Well, I think the federal government have allowed Gumi to fester uncontrollably with his odious pronouncements. The federal government contributes largely to the shenanigans we have today. When you allow state actors to make utterances, you don't arrest them, you don't profile them. Not only, he said not too long ago when they kidnapped the children in the school in Kaduna, that the federal government should send him to go and negotiate with the terrorists and all that. So Gumi have been consistent in this, and I'm surprised his name is not even there. Perhaps investigation was not extended to that direction. But the truth is that it is not for him, it does not lie in Gumi's mouth to state or proclaim the rights or otherwise of the federal government. No. It's for those persons.
This is not to assume that Gumi does not know his right.
Well,
right.
No, he may know, but he's misplaced, he's misdirected right now. So it's for the person so mentioned, okay, to go against the federal government, okay, or to allow for prosecution to commence and they go and defend themselves and ensure that they are able to, state why they are not part of that. Because when you look at the laws, okay, those who are saboteurs of the common heritage of a country must be brought to a point of prosecution at all times. Okay, and the federal government is not missing words by saying that we have this. Before now, the UAE had told us already that amongst you, there are Judas. Go fish them out. The Buhari government said he had all the names. He couldn't muster the courage to state the names. And now we're having these names out there. There must be speedy prosecution of these persons. Because if you look at the incalculable economic, political, and social damage that have been caused by this terrorist organization, you will call quick for their prosecution. Because as conspirators or as accomplices, if you cannot pin them down to actual terrorism, but you can pin them to sponsoring it, they are accomplices, or they are what they call conspirators under the law. And the punishment thereof is there in the Terrorism Prevention Act. But the problem we also have in Nigeria is those who are actually involved in terrorism, none have been prosecuted effectively. That leaves me with the huge and heavy
because
doubt.
as we speak, Mamu is said to be under investigation. And
Yes.
It's been a long time coming.
Under investigation, there was one of them who was involved in the Kuje prison escape. There's one lady among them. There's one who have affiliation with Al-Qaeda. So many of them having affiliations with some heavy terrorist organizations all over the world. So the federal government should not waste time on this, because there are more of them. These ones mentioned, they are not the only ones involved.
Yeah.
So let's get to a point where we begin to prosecute, convict for wrongdoing. That is the only way you are going to rebase whatever it is you have. And this is an acid test for the country. The international community is watching, especially the US. Now that you have come out and mentioned their names, what are you going to do? You have not prosecuted any of the actual offenders.
Yeah.
The secondary offenders.
If you remember, it took America 10 long years to nail Osama bin Laden. But it still went after him.
Yes.
You see, for a country that has this list of pussyfooting, especially in the eye of the storm, are you convinced that for once the federal government will back and bite?
Well, in this situation, I don't think they have a choice. Because to start with, I want to believe that whatever information they have is authentic. Because they have access to this information. You know that whatever transaction you do with banks, for example, the authorities have access.
You see, I said at the beginning that we run the risk of what I call a comfortable inaction. Comfortable inaction. So now 15 terrorism financiers have been named, including Bureau de Change and so on. Government plans sanction. That's the rider to this story. Do you trust government to go the whole hog?
When I said I trust them, I would expect them to go the whole hog, because they have no reason not to do so this time around. Of course, if I want to look at their antecedents, I would say no. Because, I mean, terrorism has been with us for years, and we've seen cases where people that were caught in the act were rehabilitated. We've seen our government buying uniform from bombers and all of that.
We've heard things like de-radicalizing terrorists.
Terrorists, yes. And
it makes you wonder if such a thing is possible.
And we have also, with our own eyes, we've seen terrorists escape prisons in Nigeria. So they have been. So if we look at government's antecedents, I would say no. But if I want to give this government a benefit of the doubt, I would say yes, because I will look at it that
even though you have no doubts.
Yeah. I will look at it that, I mean, what would this government stand to lose by not prosecuting these ones that have been mentioned?
Or by extension, what would the government not gain by not
exactly. So that is why I'm saying that, well, I want to trust that they will go the whole hog in prosecuting and actually bringing perpetrators to justice. And it's not just for us alone. Even how do we look in the eyes of the world? Yes, in the international community.
Yeah.
They will not take us seriously if we just come up with names and at the end of the day it goes the way that
Yeah.
others have been going, then what are we talking about? What are we saying to the
Okay,
world?
Barrister Ofele, let's reconcile what BC has told us now with what controversial Sheikh Gumi is telling us. He's saying, let me quote him, no Nigerian will put his money into terrorism. We are beyond that. These people are financing themselves by taking our children for ransom.
How did he come to that conclusion? How did he know that?
How did you know?
Has he profiled any terrorists? Is he a law enforcement agent?
He must know what we don't know.
I don't think. I think he's just making a careless defense of the enemy against the state. The federal government have the capacity to carry out investigation, and they have the monopoly of violence. Okay, that is established. I know what is going to happen here is that the public, in general society, must help the federal government here, because if the federal government fails to prosecute this name so mentioned in the next 3 months, I would expect that the citizens must file an action in court, an action for an order of mandamus in law. An order of mandamus is issued by a court to compel an institution to act when it's in dereliction of her duties. So we can assemble and say, you know what, the persons so alleged are enemies of the state, and the federal government failing to prosecute them will mean we need an order to impel them to do so. And so we can go to court and file an action for an order of mandamus. That is the only way that pressure will come on the federal government, because the international community will also be looking at the fact that, okay, certain persons have filed action against you, to go and prosecute, go and act, do what you are supposed to do under the law. What Sheikh Gumi is saying is neither here nor there. It's not a remedy, it's not a solution. The killings and the bombings and all the economic disadvantage that come with terrorism being in your system, Sheikh Gumi does not care about it. The economic impact of this, that investors are watching at the federal government to see what they're able to do. When they say they are going to Saudi Arabia, they are going to coup this, they are going to Qatar to bring investors or to woo investors or whatever. These people, part of the negative response they give to our government is based on how we have managed insecurity in the country. So if the federal government really want to open up the space for investors to come in, this is the acid test.
Yeah.
Yes, they must brace up to the challenge and exfoliate the country from criminality and criminal activity. Anything short of that will mean that the government is in collusion. Will mean that the government is unserious. The government's silence itself makes it an accomplice to the issue under reference.
BC, Sheikh Ahmed Gumi is saying, if it is true that Mamu is involved, that's his friend, he should be punished. But by the same token, we know that Mamu had been in the custody of the DSS since he was arrested in Cairo, Egypt, in September 2022. But has he been going under investigation since September 2022 through to now?
I think this government needs to deal with the Gumi once and for all. I don't even think Gumi is somebody that we should be discussing. That is the truth. Because we are making him.
I would dare say Gumi is not the enemy here.
I think we are ascribing too much importance to this individual, to his views, and so many things about him. It's been so controversial all over the years, and I don't even know why. Barrister said it earlier on, and I also believe, I don't know why Gumi himself has not been named, because he's the one that knows this terrorist. He's the one that takes message to them.
Are you surprised?
He's the one that...
Are you surprised that the same Gumi we are talking about is advising President Tinubu, don't act like former President Buhari,
But-
negotiate with bandits.
did Buhari not negotiate with bandits? And this same Gumi is the one that knows the house of every terrorist in Nigeria, and he will still come out and tell us that he was with so and so by name. He went to the house, he saw the family, he saw the children and all of that.
Even bandits.
Yes, bandits. I'm taking all of them
Are you
together.
able to rationalize everything?
I cannot rationalize anything here. And that is why I'm wondering his own views about somebody that has been under investigation for over 2 years. What is his business? What does he know that the federal government could have had, the information they could have had on this
Well,
person?
the information is that Mamu is his friend.
We don't care. We even want to believe that all terrorists are his friends. That is the basic truth. And that all bandits are his friends. And he has not even hidden that fact, because he keeps telling us that he knows them, he knows their houses, he knows their families and all of that. So the views of people like Gumi should not be respected. I don't think Gumi is in any...
But Evans, that Gumi, given all these things, is still a free man. Boggles the mind, or doesn't it?
Yes, it puts a hold on the federal government's capacity to even manage those mentioned. Because if Gumi have been one who have been, pandering all the while, and he has not been dealt with, what moral justification or moral reservation do we have to look at the federal government eyeball to eyeball and say that, you know what, you are capable of prosecuting this person so mentioned, especially when Gumi is out defending them, say they are not what the federal government have called them. And the federal government also not being able to prosecute the principal offenders. How much more will he have the capacity or the rectitude to prosecute the secondary offenders, be it allegedly?
I hear we must go now.
So,
BC, bury this for us in 60 seconds. 15 terrorist financiers have been named, and their collaborators. What do you expect from here?
Prosecution.
Okay.
Prosecution and punishment if found guilty.
Yes, prosecution is a word, but much more than prosecution. The Nigerian society should watch this case and follow it through. Where the federal government refuses to prosecute, the citizens have a right to take the federal government to court, to have them being ordered, to impel them to so act according to what the law says. Okay,
we'll terminate the discussion here, but it is now in the public domain that the federal government has eventually, finally, named 15 terrorism financiers, including bureau de change owners, and the government is planning sanctions. So the coming days should be very, very interesting for us. On that note, we want to thank you for coming, but not before thanking Olabisi Deji Folutile. Thank you for coming, ma'am.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and Evans Ufeli, many thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
I'm Citizen Jones Hussein. I'm out of here. Bye-bye now. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.